Hello again, everyone. It's just another day in the life of a military wife, and part of that is sometimes I go without being able to talk to a lot of adults, and when I'm missing adult communication and conversation, I tend to go down this rabbit hole of documentary watching. And there was one that I watched not too long ago that was about the Victoria Cross, and it was done by Jeremy Clarkson. And I really didn't know much about the Victoria Cross. I heard it referenced in movies and media and things, but didn't really know the origin and all that and what it took to get it. But part of the reason why this documentary was super, super fascinating to me is because Jeremy Clarkson, who is typically a car guy, so I wouldn't really think of him as a military, British military history person, he was doing this documentary and presentation on what the Victoria Cross was because he found out his father-in-law had received it. His wife hadn't even known. Like, it was just a surprise to the family because his father-in-law never really talked about it. So I realized, that a lot of these medals that the military receive are super common knowledge, but what do we really know about what it takes to win them or receive them? So we're going to talk about that because I thought that would be fun. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this. I am your host, Sam Wolf, and this is Life of a Military Wife. Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit. I personally found that documentary, like I said before, really super interesting. Don't really watch a lot of Jeremy Clarkson stuff, but he can be really entertaining. My husband loves his car stuff anyway, but it was really fascinating to find out the history of it and what it takes to earn it and how hard it is to earn it now, and where the metal that the actual metal that the actual ore that the metal is made of comes from. And so, yeah, I got thinking about ours and what we do in our country. And like most people are aware of what the Medal of Honor is. The Medal of Honor is the highest military decoration in the United States. It is presented by the President of the United States in the name of Congress. That's why it's called the Congressional Medal of Honor. It is for all the branches of the service. However, they have each one looks slightly different. So like there's an Army, Navy, whatever, Air Force one. They all look different, but it's the same medal. Anyway. But the general requirements are it needs to be while engaged in action against an enemy of the United States, while engaged in a military operation involving conflict with an opposing foreign force, while serving with friendly foreign forces engaged in armed conflict against an opposing armed force in which the United States is not belligerently party. So anyway, it basically, you have to be in armed combat to get it. Those are the basic requirements. There's a ton more requirements. And if you've ever listened to the stories of the people who have won these, they're not small feats. These are really amazing, incredible stories. There's actually, I feel like, and again, I didn't look up the exact numbers, should have, but I feel like there's a lot more Medal of Honor recipients in the United States than there are Victoria Cross recipients in the UK. And I'm really not sure why we give it out. It is hard to get, but we give it out a little bit more liberally than they do in the UK. However, we have been involved in a lot more conflicts in the than maybe the UK has. I don't know. That's my speculation on that one, but Medal of Honor recipients, basically, you have to, even if it's like a sergeant or a private who wins it, you have to salute them even if you're a 5-star general. It's really important, and it's for life. Like, it that respect doesn't go away. So yeah, that's just the basics. When you're doing military trainings, a lot of the training and leadership training, they'll make you actually research different people who've won these medals and do presentations on them. Fascinating stories if you ever have time to look them up. But the next one is, so the Distinguished Service Cross, Navy Cross, and Air Force Cross, I'm going to just briefly brush over. Those are the next highest award, just below the Medal of Honor. Those are slightly different. It's a different award for each branch. So, but the next commonly applied medal is the Silver Star. And the Silver Star is the third highest military combat decoration in the United States Armed Forces. It is awarded for gallantry in action while engaging against the enemy of the United States, while engaging in a military operation involving conflict with an opposing force, or serving with friendly forces. The actions to merit the Silver Star must be to such a high degree that they are over like the standard combat decorations, but below that of the crosses in the Medal of Honor. So it's kind of a middle ground-ish, but it's still very exceptional. I think only 6 women have ever received it. Some received it for actions in a combat zone during World War II, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, the first female soldier to receive the Silver Star in the United States. Well, of course, the United States. But anyway, the first one to receive it was a sergeant. And her name was, of course, Sergeant Leah Ann Hester. And she got it in 2005. And she was the first one who got it for combat. And we're going to talk about her more in a bit. The next one is the next really common one that people hear of a lot, and sadly I feel like is undervalued now, is the Purple Heart. And I was super fascinated learning about the Purple Heart when I was going through all of this. And that is because I really didn't know the origins of the Purple Heart. So the Purple Heart was actually an award created more or less by George Washington during the American Revolution. And it was on August 7th, 1782 was when he wrote about it and, basically put it together. But interestingly enough, only 3 soldiers are known to have received the original Purple Heart, which was called something else at the time. It was I know it. It's merit, basically it's the award of military merit or whatever. But yeah, only 3 people got it back then, and there seems to have gone this huge, just time period where no one received it. It wasn't until the First World War that it was again awarded. And I think that my misconception growing up was that the Purple Heart was for people who got injured. It was, you got shot, which really undervalues that award and what it takes to get it. And sadly, that is what I really thought of it growing up, because I just was not really well informed about what it took to get it. Now, there has been a lot of changes over the years in what qualifies and who qualifies to get the Purple Heart, but it is for merit. It is for doing something exceptional. And to cheapen it by thinking it's just basically almost a red badge of courage, is really not doing it justice. So basically, you need to have it's issued by the Commander-in-Chief of the and it is authorized under Army regulations to be worn, but basically it is for, I think the person who puts it best, that describes it the best, is probably the person who created it, which is George Washington. So I'm going to actually cite the words he wrote, which is, "The general ever desirous to cherish virtuous ambition in his soldiers, as well as to foster and encourage every species of military merit, directs that whenever any singularly meritorious action is performed, the author of it shall be permitted to wear on his facings over the left breast the figure of a heart in purple cloth or silk." And I really love that terminology he uses, that in order to recognize soldiers, or basically people who've gone above and beyond, who've done something that is singularly meritorious action, it just basically they've gone above and beyond. They've done something incredible. They've done something remarkable. And largely when that happens, I mean, most people, when they receive these awards, they've been shot. But that's not why they got them. And so I feel like it's important to understand that the Purple Heart is not for getting shot. It's for doing something of merit, something of significant merit. There are other awards you can get for being in combat zones or different things like that that are totally different. This is for doing something exceptional. And I want that, I don't know, I feel like that needs to be stated. Because again, even I did not truly, until researching the purpose of why George Washington stated this, that it was for merit and not for, sadly, yeah, red badge of courage, not that. But anyway, back to the story I really, really have wanted to tell you, which I first, again, it was down my documentary rabbit hole, years ago, was watching this documentary about women's involvement in the military over the years, and it includes some nurses during World War II who were the first POWs, female POWs in U.S. history. And it just went through a bunch of really fascinating stuff. Sadly, I don't remember the name of that documentary because it was years ago that I watched it. But it did mention Sergeant Hester. And it was an interview. It had interviews with her and her leadership and everything about the situation that happened on March 20th, 2005. So Sergeant Hester was in Iraq. She was assisting a supply convoy moving east of Baghdad. She was an MP. She purposely wanted to be an MP because it was one of the few positions at the time where women were in a combat situation, more or less. And that's really what she wanted to do. She wanted to be an active soldier, and she wanted to be a police officer later on. Those were like, she wanted to do those sorts of jobs by her own admission in interviews after the fact. But anyway, so what happened was they were going down this road. The first vehicle in the convoy got attacked, and caught fire, which then stalled the rest of the convoy in the middle of the kill zone of their attackers. And they were using this orchard and embankments, these like ditches, the irrigation ditches, to protect themselves from the fire of the soldiers, so that they could shoot at the convoy without being open and exposed. And immediately she took action. She got her platoon to flank them, go around, get into the trenches, start lobbing, like sending over mortars and grenades. Basically, this is what she said, that they started by, she was a gunner for an 19, and she started shooting those downrange, down into the ditch to begin with, and directing the other soldiers to do that too. Then she dismounted her vehicle and got a grenade launcher and started shooting into the trenches with that. Then stormed the trenches on foot, like leading the charge. Got in there, personally killed several people, started clearing those trenches to just so they'd stop shooting at her people. And when it was finally done after 27 minutes, basically, yeah, 27, sorry, not 27, after 45 minutes, a 45-minute just crazy engagement, 27 insurgents lay dead, 6 wounded, and 1 captured. So, interestingly enough, again, I remember from the documentary, her, I don't know if it was her OIC or NCOIC, but anyway, someone above her, the person who put in the paperwork for her and others to get awards for this situation, had no idea that that no other female had been awarded the Silver Star for combat actions. Women had been awarded it during World War II, but not for combat. And so they were just going to do the award ceremony. They were still downrange, and then all of a sudden, the day of, someone's like, has this ever happened before? And if you've ever been in the military, people just do the job. They don't always think about the ramifications or the implications or any of that about what they're doing. They just do the job. And finally, someone was like, wait, has any other female ever gotten this for combat before? And so they looked it up and they're like, oh crud. And so they're like, they put together this big ceremony and like they documented it with photos and everything. Like, and they probably would have done a lot of that anyway, but they realized that this was a significant event. But I thought it was hysterical that they hadn't even realized that she was the first female to get it for combat actions. And she didn't either. She had no idea prior to it. Like she said, she was just doing her job. She wanted to be an MP because she wanted to be able to actually be on the ground, boots on the ground with a gun. And she definitely had that opportunity. Afterwards, she became a police officer, but she missed being a soldier, so she joined the Guard and did deploy again. But I remember watching this, and there's some funny parts with them not realizing the ramifications of the whole situation, but also with just how down to earth it was for her. Like, this wasn't about her being female. This was about her getting to do her job and being a soldier. And really, the service members, the female service members I've known, really that's all it is for them. They really wanted to just do the job. They really want to be involved, whether it's they really wanted to be like my mother-in-law's mother. She really wanted to be a nurse. She really wanted to help the soldiers. Or like this sergeant, she really wanted to be boots on the ground in the trenches with a gun. Or whatever. They just want to make a difference. I've known female pilots, and I've asked them, I'm like, why did you do that? Like, that's got to be really hard to be flying into a combat zone and shooting at people. And it's because they wanted to protect this country, and it had nothing to do with them, like with their gender. It had everything to do with the fact that they were proud to be Americans and they wanted to serve as Americans. And I loved that it has nothing to do with their gender for them. That's not even a factor. They want to be involved because they are Americans and they love their country. So, it's definitely it's been interesting getting to know female service members, because it's a different perspective on what it means to protect and serve our country. But I'm really, really just proud of all that they've done. And anyway, I hope you got something out of this, but the different medals and awards that these service members earn represent a significant sacrifice. Most service members will never earn any of the medals that I have just listed, because their capacity in which they serve maybe does not put them in an environment or a situation where that is likely to occur. But they do get recognition for the sacrifices that they make and the work that they do accomplish. And I feel sad that sometimes among service members that I've spoken to, they feel like the only medals that matter are the ones that I listed. And I don't feel like that's a fair representation of the sacrifice and dedication that they give. They may not ever win the Medal of Honor or the Silver Star or the Purple Heart, but that doesn't mean that they haven't dedicated and sacrificed and achieved great things. So, that said, I hope that it was at least informative, if not a little entertaining. And I really love learning these stories of these incredible people and the sacrifices and things they did. So that said, this is going to be a slightly shorter episode, but, that's fine. If there are any topics or aspects of military life that you are interested in finding out more about or would like to have me talk about or share what I know, please let me know. I've been considering lots of different topics, but feedback I get largely determines which ones I do and which ones I don't get to. So please, in the comments, let me know, what are you interested? What do you want to know? What do you want to hear about? If you're not military and you listen to this, you're not part of a military family, but you want to learn more, tell me what you want me to talk about. I'd love to help clarify things, misconceptions that are had in general about what it's like to be a military family or a military life or the military experience. That said, I've also been trying to line up a few more interviews because I had a lot of fun doing that a couple months back, and I think it would be a lot of fun to do again. So that said, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and this is Life of a Military Wife, and I am your host, Sam Wolf.